in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Google Ad Grants and Google Search Ads, minimizing efforts and maximizing return. Excuse me, pardon me. I'll start over again. Okay, getting started. That's better. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Google Ad Grants and Google Search Ads, minimizing efforts and maximizing return. Today, we will be discussing how to better your Google Ad Grant program, but also why you should be using Google Grants and paid ads together, and why, if you're not using them together, you may be leaving money on the table. Throughout this webinar, we want to encourage you to ask questions by chatting those to us in the question box, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. So I know we have a number of different levels of Google Ad Grant users on the line today, and I want to be cognizant of everyone's areas of interest. So here are the things we're going to discuss so that when we get to your area of interest, your ears can perk up. First, we'll be talking about the basics of Google Ad Grants and why some of you on the line may have struggled to get your grant up and running. And then we'll talk about more intermediate topics like performance indicators to show how successful your program is. And we'll talk about the funnel, meaning how you can turn brand new people into donors, a sort of digital acquisition, if you will. And then we'll discuss advanced topics like bidding more than $2 and how some organizations are actually gifted additional monthly ad grant over $10,000. So that's like $20,000 per month, for example, when their accounts are managed exceptionally well. And finally, we'll go into combining your Google Grant and paid ads to supercharge your program. So with that, let me introduce you to the lovely and talented Tracy Saad. She is Carl Bloom's in-house strategic Google advisor. Tracy runs CBA's Google Grant and Search Ad programs for public media. She has spent 8 years managing Google Ad Grants and Search Ads. She is constantly keeping up with the changes that Google presents, and she loves a challenge. Thank you, Tracy, and welcome.
Thank you. The lovely introduction.
You're welcome. Okay, so Tracy, let's get to it. Over to you. Why Google Ad Grants?
Okay, just in case there's anyone on the line who isn't familiar with what the Google Ad Grant is, it is $10,000 worth of ad credits that Google gives to nonprofits, provided that you go through an application process. It's $333 a day of essentially free monopoly money from Google to get more people, to get more attention for your business, to get more people to come to your business. You can use it to advertise not quite everything, but especially from a nonprofit perspective, almost everything that your organization does.
Okay, great. Now let's talk about why paid ads.
There's sort of a juxtaposition between these two things. So if Google is giving you $10,000 in free advertising, why in the world would you actually spend your own money on Google? And it's a fair question. The thing is, Google gives you free advertising dollars with a lot of caveats. You can do text advertising, you can do, XYZ type of advertising, but there are certain very specific types of advertising that are also very advantageous that are only available if you pay for them. And there's sort of a beautiful synergy between what you can do with the ad credits, the free money, and then a little bit of a spend as well.
Okay. So now that we know why your station should use and have a Google Ad Grant program and be doing paid ads, let's talk to those people on the webinar who are just getting their program started. All right, Tracy, so let's walk through. First of all, you need to open an account. Let's talk about that.
Okay, I want to say to all of you out there who are struggling with trying to get your ad grant for the first time, like you've heard about it, you're like $10,000, I want it, and you're struggling through all of the steps to get there. you're not alone. I see you there. Google has continually made it, every year they make it a little bit harder, and don't worry, we'll get you through it. The first step, if you haven't done it yet, is to open what Google calls a Google for Nonprofit account. It's a way to certify that you are indeed a nonprofit and not a for-profit trying to take nonprofit benefits out of Google. There's actually a couple different things that you can get from a Google for Nonprofit account. There's some Gmail benefits. There's some other things as well, not just the Google Ads, but it is the first step in getting a Google Ads grant. And once you have a Google for Nonprofit account, it is through that account that you can then apply for the Google Ad grant.
Okay.
And I'm just going to go through the rest of these numbers because they're all part of the same thing. So this is so simple, but it's so it happened to me so many times. So when you log into your Google for Nonprofits account and you go through the application process, Google has this tendency to just randomly choose which email address it thinks that you like. It randomly chooses the person that it thinks that you want to be at that moment. So it could be your personal Gmail, it could be a work Gmail, and it attaches whatever application you submit to whatever email address, that little like icon in the top right-hand corner that you're logged in as at that time. So I've seen people apply for these Google Ad grants or for other aspects of Google for Nonprofits dozens of times and never receive it because they were doing it from the wrong email address. So if that has happened to you, I hope that you never have to experience that again. If you are successful in applying for the Google Ad grant, the first thing that Google Ads is going to ask you when you log in is to give it a credit card. Don't be tricked. Don't be fooled. Don't give it that credit card. I don't know why Google does this. It's cruel. Once you enter credit card information into a Google Ads account, your account is no longer eligible for the free money from Google. But it's the first thing that they ask you. So just click the little X button, don't enter the credit card information, and continue onward. There is a new aspect to the application. New as in within the last 2 years, where you actually have to go through an exam. Basically, Google is trying to make sure that everyone who applies for the ad grant has the capacity to use it, has the knowledge they need to use it. So the exam is actually testing you on your ability to construct advertisements within Google Ads and to follow the policies in order to retain your Google Ads grant, which follows beautifully into the next thing. If you're successful with this whole process, part of the exam actually is, can you set up your account correctly? If at any time your account ceases to be set up correctly, Google has this whole list of rules you have to follow. Click-through rates you have to meet, a number of ad groups and advertisements per campaign, what you can target, what you can't, etc. They have filters that are constantly looking for anything that doesn't fit with their requirements, and they will cancel the account. It's not. You'd think that they would be nicer to nonprofits, but they are not. It's all automated as well. So if your account is canceled for any reason, it's not fun to try to get a hold of a human to get it turned back on again. The last piece I wanted to add on here, if you do find yourself in a Google, you successfully get a Google Ad grant and you're in Google Ads, and you just find yourself totally overwhelmed as a starter, don't be afraid to start with Smart Campaigns. They are sort of the beginner version. And if you use Smart Campaigns, I've actually yet to see an account with Smart Campaigns that manages to use more than 10% of the grant. They're just a very, very limited option. But $1,000 a month is better than no dollars a month. So start there. And it actually, Smart Campaigns help to protect you as well as you're learning. A lot of the crazy requirements for the Google Ad grant, they are softer in how they apply those requirements if you are using the 10% in the Smart Campaigns.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. That was great. Thank you for those tips. Let's go on to the next group of people. So if you're listening and you want to talk about intermediate topics and you'd like to learn more about that, this is for you. So perk your ears up. All right, for the people that are looking to increase their program, increase their success, let's go. So congrats, you have made it this far. You have a Google Ad grant. Now we're gonna look at key performance indicators, KPIs, that are in the end, we're gonna look at the ever important funnel. So Tracy, can you please walk us through what KPIs are important, what KPIs show that a station is running a healthy program, and then we'll talk about the funnel eventually.
Okay. KPIs are a fancy marketing way of saying the thing that you wanted people to do in relation to your organization. So a KPI can be dollars. A KPI can be visits to a website. They're just ways of measuring over time whether people are actually doing the things that you want them to do. So with the Google grant, you can very specifically target those actions that you want people to do. Let's say you have like you built a new page on your website because you have a new program or you have a new issue and you need more people to see that content. A KPI can be the number of people who actually go to that page, and that's something that Google Ads can specifically and measurably help you to achieve. Donations similarly. So it's just connecting the concept of advertising with the specific things that you want people to do on your website, and then interlocking those two so that free money doesn't just mean free money, it also means real money.
Everybody loves real money. Okay, very good. All right, so let's talk a little about the funnel. I enjoy the funnel. It brings me joy, as I've told Tracy. So the funnel is an illustration of how you can develop those people that don't know much about your station and take them through the journey of learning about you and then caring about what you have to offer and then turning them into a donor. So Tracy, will you walk us through the steps in the funnel, and please tell us where to use the free Google grants and then the paid search ads, and finally a combination of the two.
All right. So this is to kind of bring this away from, we'll talk about it as a funnel, but to bring it away from more marketing jargon and more towards like people's daily experiences. This is designed to be a representation of an individual's experience and the number of interactions that they have to have before they decide to part with their hard-earned dollar. I find it much easier to understand in something like, if you're choosing to purchase something, let's say you're choosing to purchase, I was going to say like a pair of socks. You've seen advertisements on Instagram maybe for a pair of socks that you can buy that have your pet's face on it. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but I love those.
Oh yeah, sure.
Those the entire reason that you're seeing those advertisements on Instagram is to bring you through this funnel experience. So the people at the very top of the funnel, new people who don't know about your brand. I am one of those people. I didn't know that I could put my dog's face on a pair of socks until advertisements targeted me on Instagram saying, you can put your dog's face on a pair of socks. But then it was like, well, you know, okay, I can put my dog's face on a pair of socks, but like, how quality are the socks and how much do they cost? And we basically start the process of, all right, let's be honest, I'm interested. I want my dog's face on socks, but I need more information. So that's sort of the next steps in the funnel, knowing more about the brand, getting people to come to your website. They can learn about a new initiative or your mission or whatever it is, until they reach the point where they are a follower of your brand. So let's say now I've decided, you know what, the price point's right. I want my dog's face on socks, their quality. So I'm going to follow them on, Instagram or Facebook, or I'm going to go to their website on a regular basis. And then there's that last piece of getting me to just buy the socks. Like this whole process in the funnel is just like building a relationship with someone so that they feel comfortable buying your socks.
Mm-hmm.
So Now we're going to go through the Google Ads and the grant and the paid, and why you end up needing both. So the Google Ad grant, the grant is the free bit that you get from Google. It is limited in what it can do. Well, before we talk about why it's limited, let's talk about why it's amazing. You get $10,000 of that first ad experience with people, where they suddenly become aware that their dog's face can be on a pair of socks. That is such a huge jump from I didn't know my dog's face could be on socks to, oh my gosh, my dog's face can be on socks. And that is one of the most beautiful applications of the Google Ad Grant, is to just raise awareness for your organization, raise awareness for what you're doing in the world, and raise awareness of why people should care about what you're doing. This middle bit, so after that first touch, after that first, this organization exists, I'm interested, getting those same people, knowing who those people are that have that level of awareness of your organization, and getting them to take the next step. So basically being able to target them instead of returning to targeting absolutely everyone is not something that the Google Ad Grant will allow you to do. It's a special subset of advertisements called retargeting, and the Google Ad Grant is not able to be used with retargeting. And if you're a smarty pants, which I've had some people call this out before, that it says in the Google Ad Grant that you can use retargeting, and you can with search ads. I'll leave that for the advanced bit, and I'll explain why technically yes, but realistically no, it's useless. Okay. So you want to use page search ads for the middle bit, because you can basically create a bucket of everyone who's seen the Google Ad Grant ads, and just target those people with videos, with images, with other advertisements that recognize that they already know what your brand is. So, your first interaction with the brand is, oh my gosh, this exists. And then the second one needs to be a little bit more intimate, right? It can't just be, this exists again. You're like, yeah, I know that. Why are you telling me that again? So in paid search ads, you can provide more information. It can be more in depth about your organization, and you can ask people to take an action. Go to my website, go here, look at this, watch this video, do something. And then down at the bottom, where the part that we all care about, how do we get people to be emotionally and financially invested in the organization? And this is something where both the Google Ad Grants and paid can work together. At this point, at the bottom, you can do the Google Grant again, and just ask people to donate. So people who are searching for a specific term in Google, let's say they're searching for your brand, you can have the first thing that they see on Google as a result, instead of it just being your homepage, be a request to donate. And that's powerful. People will click on that and they will donate, as we've seen them do with a bunch of different organizations that we work with. The other thing with paid is that you can advertise to people as they are wandering around the internet to remind them that now is a time to donate. So this is something that we'll do for like end of year campaigns or Giving Tuesday or something. So people are already in the mood, in the space to donate in those particular instances, but who are they going to donate to? And by using retargeting at the very bottom with people who already know who your organization is and they've already interacted with you, you can remind them that during this season, the place that they want to give their money is you.
Okay, I like it. So that is a great example of the funnel. And of course, now I'll go buy socks with my dog's face on them.
Me too.
Let's move on and let's talk to the advanced folks. So if anybody is out there and you have a program, you're running a program, everything that Tracy has said so far feels very familiar to you, and let's supercharge everything that you're doing with some real insights and some real tips from our guru. So Tracy, let's talk about, bidding more, click-through rates, and also that very exciting additional bonus money that Google will give you if you're running your program well. That's what I want to know about.
Okay. I want to add the remarketing line on here too. Imaginary, there's an imaginary line for the remarketing thing too. Okay, the first one, bidding more than $2. So this is one of the items, one of the requirements of a Google ad grant, one of the limitations rather, that you can't bid more than $2 on any particular keyword. And for those of you who aren't advanced, and that just sounds like, what in the world did she just say? Basically, in order to appear in Google, you're basically competing against everyone else who also wants to appear in Google. And the only way that you can win is by paying more for a spot. And with a limitation of $2 in order to achieve that spot, I mean, there's lots of people who are paying $40 to appear in that spot, so you're never going to win. So there's a lot of ways to work around that, but there is also an opportunity to remove that limit if your account is set up correctly. If your account is correctly tracking conversions, and there's a wide variety of conversions that you can choose to track, and you use either conversion optimization or targeted TPA, I think it is. Basically, you say, I'm willing to pay up to X amount in order to get this conversion, and that system is running correctly, then you can remove the $2 limit from your keywords. You can actually remove the $2 limit from your keywords at any time, but it won't help you. Like, you can just click it and say, no, you know what, I want to ignore this. I want to spend $1 million on this one keyword, and Google will just ignore you and will still keep bidding $2. So in order to actually remove that limit, you have to set up the conversion tracking.
Okay.
The next item is tickets and events, which is kind of a bigger bucket of things. Copyrighted terms and multiple URLs. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff in here that Google requires you to submit special documentation in order to be able to do, which sounds like a pain, but it's very much worth it. So if you are an organization that works with tickets or events, in order to be a ticket seller or a ticket reseller, you have to have a special certification with Google. It's not terribly difficult to get. It just takes a little while after you submit all the documentation. But what it does allow you to do is like append tickets and events to the bottom of your ads and use people purchasing tickets and events as a conversion activity as well. As for advertising copyrighted terms, this one's a fun one. We get this one for NPR all the time. So for some reason, Google does not consider a lot of nonprofit terms, like the name of the nonprofit, to be copyrighted. So people can use, nonprofits can use their own title in their ads. Seems pretty straightforward, right? But for some reason, NPR is one of them. There are a couple others as well. Google doesn't recognize that NPR stations are owners of their own copyright or trademark to the term NPR, which makes it very difficult to do advertising for the organization if you can't have any landing page that says NPR in it or any advertisement that says NPR in it. So you have to go through the copyright and the trademark. Actually, now it's both. Because copyright, you have to do a copyright one in order to be able to do the advertisement with the term, and then a trademark one in order to have the landing page contain the term. There's a couple other ones as well. There's, if you're going to do any advertising about healthcare related items or anything related to US politics and news, then you also have to apply for certification to do those. And those are also relatively new, related to the 2020 election.
I was going to ask you about that and how it relates to COVID. So you have, we've talked a little, and I've seen you talking about COVID and then news and politics, that is something that you really have to, it's presented some challenges recently.
For sure. Google's kind of created a bucket that they call sensitive events, and anything that could be that might have a different interpretation depending on your political viewpoint They just kind of bucket into sensitive events. Unless you are a certified news provider, you cannot advertise your opinion about any sensitive event.
Okay.
For the multiple URLs, this is something that happens for a lot of nonprofits. I've actually been surprised how consistent it is. Far more nonprofits have multiple URLs than have just one single URL. But it is possible to advertise multiple URLs within a single ad grant. Again, it's just going through the paperwork. Oh yes, no. We'll leave opportunities for additional funding to last just because Christina is so excited about it.
I'm so excited about it. I think it's great. Okay. So let's go on to the next topic. Go ahead.
Wait. There's one more, just the remarketing thing. So technically, as part of the Google Ads grant, like if you read the fine print, you can do remarketing. The problem is that because you can't do remarketing with display ads or with YouTube ads or with anything else, you can use a remarketing list, but you also have to pair that with the only type of advertisement that you can do in the Google Ad grant, which is keyword-based searches. So what the basically saying is you can say, I want to target only these 10 people, but in order for any of those 10 people to actually see your ad, they also have to Google one of these 10 keywords that you've specified. So in order to get that combination of people, and in the end, it's not like there's an ad that shows up wherever they are. It's an ad that only shows up in Google search. It ends up being way more trouble than it's worth and not truly remarketing.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that clarification. Okay. So let's go on to supercharging your program with the combination of the ad grant, the free money, and the paid ad. So one of the things we've talked about, Tracy, is that if you're paying for Google search ads and you don't have a grant or you're not maximizing the $10,000, that you might be leaving money on the table. So how can we supercharge the program by using both, maximizing both?
This is one of those things where you can use a Google, you can pay for Google ads to do what the Google ad grant does. But if you can have 10,000 free dollars to do, 80% of that work, and then you can just focus the part that you're paying for on doing really well, that 20% that the ad grant doesn't do, you can get so much further without spending a single dollar. So why not? The Google search ads, like with the funnel that we have over here, the Google search ads can do every single aspect of this because it is the full package of opportunity. But the Google ad grant can do it for free. The whole top bit, awareness raising, and part of the conversion bit on the bottom as well. There really are, I think Google did this, it's quite clever on their part to make the Google ad grant as huge but limited like it is, because they don't want to cannibalize their own business. They want you to pay them still. So what they've done is create a situation where the two work really, really well together. The Google ad grant gives you the opportunity to create buckets of people who have seen some level of information about your business, and that's not specific to the Google ad grant. It's just advertising of any kind allows you to do that. But the fact that it's $10,000 and it's free and you get buckets of people out of it is incredible. Being able to re-advertise to that specific bucket of people, though, is not something that you can do with the free money. But if you did that first step with the free money, then you can focus your Google paid ads on just remarketing to those same people and just bringing them down the funnel. The idea with Google ad grant and Google paid together is basically creating a machine that does this funnel development for you. So you can set it up and you can have it run, and it is making more people aware of your business, developing their level of interest in it, bringing them to the website, bringing them back to the website, giving them a video to watch, and then reminding them that you're the place that they want to donate when the time comes. All without you having to do a thing once you've got it all set up. So.
And you've given us some great tips to set it up. So thank you, friend. There's one other part that we wanted to talk about, and it's, can you tell us what you can do with a paid ad account that you can't do with a grant account? We've talked about that here and there, so let's just define it one more time.
The paid account, you can do retargeting, true retargeting. You can target people based on their interests, on their behavior, on their, you can target them based on the fact that they've visited a physical location of your business. We've seen that one as being quite useful for series of libraries. So it's, the person who's really likely to donate to you, someone who actually regularly goes to the library. And the other aspect of it is video. The Google Ad Grant, you can't use video creatives or image creative. You can only use text essentially. So on the paid side, you can use advertisements that contain YouTube videos and other creatives.
Okay, so that's really everything except, ding, 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 I'm going to go back to the previous slide where we say opportunities for additional funding before we go into our Q&A. So Tracy, tell me, how did you help multiple stations not just get $10,000 a month, but get a bonus $10,000 both in December 2020 and January 2021? How does that work?
That is a great question. And the only way that I can think of to describe it is sort of like like Yelp reviews, I suppose, or maybe Amazon reviews would be a better example. You know how there's kind of a certain point in the number of reviews and the quality of reviews that an object gets on Amazon, where people just stop buying it from any other seller. It's at the top. You're like, it has 5 stars. It has 10,000 reviews. I just keep clicking that one. So there's sort of a point where it's like, who's going to be the best seller? Who's going to be the best seller? It's this one. And then from then on, like, it's done. No one can even compete with it. Google seems to operate that way with its grantees as well. Those programs that are being well managed, they just tend to dump opportunities on those organizations. And I know because I also have a couple organizations that I was not working with at the time, but they were thinking of working, so they'd given me access to their accounts that didn't get the additional funding. And it is, if every aspect of the Google Ad Grant requirements are met and exceeded, they sort of have this, they actually have a little thing where it's like red, yellow, green, how are you doing on all of these different aspects? And if the majority of your account is, meets and exceeds all of Google Ad Grants requirements, then they tend to dump extra funding on you, which is crazy. I mean, it's $10,000 of monopoly money. So to Google, I suppose, what's another $10,000 of monopoly money? But on the receiving end, to be able to double the amount of traffic, especially over the holiday giving season for organizations, is just incredible. So yeah, we'll keep having the Google Ad Grants be managed as well as possible, and hope that Google is feeling festive.
So I want to summarize by tooting Tracy's horn and saying, Tracy, it's really because you've done an excellent job managing these accounts and knowing the ins and outs of how it works. So just a bonus from Google is the holiday present that everybody got. So thank you for that. Exciting. I thought that was so much fun when it happened. So with that, we are going to go on to some questions. Q&A is next. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Hi, Tracy. That was a pre-recorded session that we did about 2 weeks ago. Tracy and I are in very different locations. I'm in Atlanta. Tracy is are you back in Barcelona? Still in Mallorca? Oh, you're muted. Are you there? Nope. We'll work it out. We'll work it out. Yeah, perfect. Okay, great.
Okay, excellent. I'm actually in St. Louis at the moment.
Oh, I mean, I don't mean to be sad, but Barcelona would be very exciting. So, Anyway, so we've got the wonderful and lovely Tracy with us. Tracy, thank you so much for speaking with us a couple of weeks ago. We did have a bunch of questions that came in, so I want to go ahead and answer those for the audience. So Tracy, one that we always get because we work and public media has university licensees is the ever-present question about, can a Google grant be given to a university licensee? So let's go with part one of that, and then I'll ask you a follow-up question.
Okay. I realized as I was watching this webinar over again that I didn't cover this. Not every nonprofit is eligible for a Google grant. There are specific limitations, which I respect Google's decision on this matter. There's some, like if you are a political action committee, you can't use the Google grant, which seems appropriate to me. One of their limitations is that if you are a university, if you are an educational institution and registered as such, you are not eligible for the Google grant. And we've seen this be a problem with PBS stations that are, they're a PBS station, but they're nonprofit documentation. They're registered through a university, and if the tax ID number is through a university, Google will not accept it for the application.
Okay, and I know we have one university licensee on the line that they actually hold the 501c3, the actual public media station does, and that's a unique situation. So really, for the most part, it's a no, unless you fall into kind of a unique category. I did want to ask for the question came in too, for the stations that are not able themselves to access the Google grant, how do you recommend they still use Google paid ads to promote themselves and run campaigns?
Oh, so I love Google ads in general. What you can do with a Google ad to promote the issues that are important to your particular nonprofit is just so incredible. I always go on and on about the Google grant just because it's free. I mean, and it's such a unique opportunity for nonprofits as opposed to for-profits. But absolutely everything that we're talking about being possible, every aspect of that funnel, every step along the way is possible in the Google paid ad. It's just sad that you can't get those certain aspects for free. So raising awareness for your organization, developing people who support the organization, understand what's important to it, and then bringing them to a place where they're willing to make a donation is a journey that you can do entirely in Google paid ads if the Google grant is not accessible to you.
Okay, so on to another question that came in. Pardon me while I look at that over here. So, sorry, apologies. Someone is asking, is there a ratio of grant or paid that is recommended? So, and if there's not a ratio, do you have a recommendation of XX grant dollars to X paid dollars so someone can kind of budget things out?
Oh, interesting. That is an excellent question. I haven't come across ratios exactly. So it really depends on how well you're able to spend the Google grant. For some organizations, it's much easier to spend the entire $10,000 a month than it is for others. And I don't actually know that there's much of a relationship between Google grant spending and paid Google spending. It would be more, I would look at it more on the size of your audience. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to reach 60,000 people, or if you're trying to reach 600,000 people or 6 million people, that would have more of an impact on the amount of money that you would need to spend than whatever it is you're doing in the Google grant.
And I know that when we've run campaigns for certain stations, you know, for those out there that are not currently doing paid ad campaigns, the budgets, the actual ad spend is not a massive amount of money. It can be a few $100s to $1,000 depending on your objectives or the number of people that you want to reach, your goals. So, you know, not to be afraid of that amount. And you agree?
Very much so. So Google loves to spend your money. So if you give Google $1 million limit spend, Google will spend $1 million, but it's not necessary. If you know concretely what it is that you're trying to achieve, and you set up a campaign that is focused on achieving that specific goal, you can make sure that every dollar you're spending is in achieving that goal and not in just kind of throwing content all over the internet. And that can be, I mean, I've seen some Google Ads campaigns for as little as $200.
Okay, okay, good. And I wanted to ask the audience, and feel free to write it in the questions box, but how many of you are running good, successful programs, and then how many of you are struggling to get your programs up and running? And we'll talk about that in a minute. Tracy, another question that came in for you. So someone is saying, this goes back to when you were talking about URLs, but someone is saying that you also have to get your destination URLs approved before you use them. Is that correct to your knowledge?
I'm not quite sure that I understand that one. I think I'll answer what I think that is, and then question asker, you can correct me if I've misunderstood you. In order to apply for the Google grant, you have to tell Google what website you want to advertise. So let's just say your website is library.com, or no, it would be library.org, excuse me, nonprofit. So you have to apply with that URL. If you make it through the application process, that URL is approved, library.org. If you want to use any other URL, let's say you also own, I don't know, books.org, you have to go through another application process, not for a whole nother Google grant, but just for sort of a subsection of URLs that I'm allowed to use, destination URLs that I'm allowed to use. And is that what you're, and it's not difficult. And we have one organization that has 6 different destination URLs, I believe.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, that's fine. That's a good bit of information. There's another question that's kind of a simple question. So when signing up, should you use a station at .org email or a Gmail address?
Oh, we've gotten this question a couple times. It fundamentally doesn't matter, but it is helpful to whatever email address that you use to open the Google for Nonprofits account should also be the email address that you use to open the Google Ads account. Just so that I find this really helpful too, because then when you log into either program, it defaults to the correct email address. So you're not constantly going, all right, Google, what did you pick? What email address did you pick? I've got to make sure that you're on the right one. But it can be personal, or it can be through the organization. From an organizational perspective, it's usually helpful to have a generic organizational email that these things are attached to, because the Google grant has been around now for, I'm not even exactly sure. I've been working with it for the last 10 years, but I think it's been around for maybe close to 15. And if you start the grant, it's likely to be around for some years after. So having an email address that you can pass on to another person in the organization is just good sense.
Okay, good. And then one final question that everyone is asking, or that someone has asked, and I think it will benefit everyone, is do you have recommendations for free resources online for troubleshooting, or something that simplifies what the Google pages are trying to accomplish? Do you have favorite tutorials that you like to recommend to kind of catch people up to speed, or the best blogs that are out there?
Google has a YouTube channel specifically for Google Ad grants. It only came out, I would say recently, but it's within the last 4 years or so. But it was such a nightmare to get anything solved before that, because Google's, if you guys have read Google's help pages, like those text pages, they're just so confusing, and they're not written by the same person or in the same style. They're just all over the place. But those YouTube videos, just you can just Google Ad grant YouTube videos. They're really well done.
Okay, very good. So that is, let me double check. I think that's the end of our questions yep, that's the end of our questions. So I think we're all set. Tracy, I want to thank you so much. And I also want to say, if anyone has any questions, advanced or otherwise, that they want to ask, you can shoot me an email and I'll relay it to Tracy and we'll get you an answer very quickly. I wanted to also say, join us in about 45 minutes. We have a wonderful machine learning webinar with Roy Solutions, which is a CRM, very fancy, great people. It should be excellent. So that's 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. Tracy, I always really enjoy talking to you. You always educate and illuminate me. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful time in St. Louis. And again, we're here if you need us, those out there in audience land. We appreciate your time and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.